wires and the formulas to calculate how things work. And I like that idea of understanding from the atoms on up how things work. We're developing so many new materials now that are going to make memories operate faster with little magnetic structures and nanotechnologies. And one of the ones I'm looking forward to is when we can put photonics, light-operated computers. I've been interested in this for a long time, but in the past, people who did research projects in universities had little devices that could switch light, but an electrical signal was involved. So you had to mix electricity and light. Now we've got photonics coming on, where the photons alone, which are much lighter and faster than electrons and use less power, are going to enable us to build processors that are maybe 100 times faster, 1,000 times faster than today's processors. And people say, what do we need it for? Why do you need a faster computer, a faster processor? It kind of does everything I need to do now. Well, you have to stretch a bit, you have to make up the reasons. But the computers of today don't act like another human being yet. They interact with you, you can type your entries in, and you can see answers back, and you can even play games on them. But a real human being would look at you. Let's say you were trying to teach a child. Today we have great animated books, the programs on computers that will take a student through a course on history or mathematics, but it doesn't notice when the student is a little tired, having a bad day, operating slow, thinking about other things, like a real human teacher would. Someday that software could be written. I don't think we've taken very many, but the minutest steps in little directions when it comes to this idea of artificial intelligence. Computers that actually work the way the human brain works. For example, would we ever make a robot that could make a cup of coffee? And I could go into your house and probably make a cup of coffee. You could go into my house, and you could probably make a cup of coffee, but a robot would have to know how to navigate a house, find a kitchen, detect what might be a coffee machine by looking, see where the pieces are, try to guess what kind of filters might be around, open drawers to find them. We would do this naturally because of our own experience making coffee, failing, learning to use new machines our entire lives. We have led a human life, and the products that are made for humans are easy for us to understand, but it's an incredible computation job for a computer to ever do these things. We have a robot, the Roomba, that will clean your room. Left unattended, it'll go around and do a little job very nicely. And they actually work. I would love a Roomba that came out, even if it took 30 hours or 12 hours or 6 hours, some long time, went outside and just one little square centimeter at a time washed my car. And I would go to bed at night, and in the morning this robot would have washed my car. And I would love it. Anyway, once we need a lot higher computation power for a computer to actually ask the questions about your family and be able to interrogate you and have the appearance of a real human being. We're also stuck in the 2D world for the main part with our computer displays. And I was thinking, well, boy, we're just now getting to where we can make some foldable displays, organic LEDs or LCDs that are flexible. And I thought, wow, what if you could make a big flexible one in the shape of a ball and then display Google Earth on it, the entire Earth at once? Wouldn't that be useful? That would be a real improvement over a two-dimensional screen, and it would be much more what humans understand instantly and are used to. We wouldn't have to adapt our mind to a two-dimensional world. Well, when we developed this Lisa computer, and we wanted computing to finally be understandable and intuitive, you just look at the screen and it makes sense. We built in a bunch of human metaphors. Things that you have in your normal life that you already use and do, like a desktop. We named the screen a desktop, and it would replace your desktop. And there would be sheets of paper on it, because people understand these things very automatically. It's a part of your normal life. Steve Jobs spoke once about how the shape of a mouse should be like a nice stone that you pick up in a creek, and it feels good to the hand. And a lot of this whole item of how do things feel when you use them to the human body is very important in our Apple products. There was a time when we came out with the first graphical user interface computer, and Microsoft still had the DOS software. You had to type long command lines that had commands and file names and colons and everything in the right order, and it was kind of like you had to become non-human. You had to become a computer person for a while just to copy a file. The Lisa was the first computer ever to have drag and drop. The concept of drag and drop. Drag a little icon of a file, drop it on an icon of a folder, and it goes in. So it was that kind of approach we had so much better. The business people of the world, though, had sort of gotten used to their IBM PCs. IBM was the big computer company that had such huge prowess selling computers into large mainframe computers into companies, and it was very easy for them to sell personal computers and overtake Apple in the personal computer arena. And most of the business people swore by PCs, whereas the creative people were tending to go towards the Apple IIs and eventually the Macintoshes. And we thought, gosh, we've got this Macintosh, and there's all these businessmen saying the Macintosh can't do the big business jobs because it has pictures. Pictures make it a toy. And it took me back in my mind to when I worked at Hewlett-Packard on scientific calculators. We had scientific calculators that operated with reverse Polish notation. Real computer scientists study reverse Polish notation. It's a computer term. It must be more powerful. It must be more impressive than normal 5 plus 3 equals 8 type of normal mathematics formulas. We would say 5, enter, 3, plus, weird orders of things, but it was reverse Polish notation, so it could do the most complicated engineering jobs in the world. Every engineer had to buy this machine that cost thousands of today's dollars. And this little handheld calculator to calculate their formulas because it could do so much better than a slide rule. Well, another competition. After a couple of years, we were going to have competition. Hewlett-Packard had the only handheld scientific calculators in the world. And we had moved up to ones that were programmable. We had moved up to ones that had tape memory so you could store your programs. Now Texas Instruments was going to offer a scientific calculator that used normal arithmetic equations with parentheses to tell the order to do things, the same as we write in our classes in school. And we laughed. At Hewlett-Packard, we laughed. We said it has parentheses. It must be a toy. It is capable of the big heavy-duty jobs. So the first time at Hewlett-Packard that we got a Texas Instruments calculator, we brought it around and we were laughing at what a toy it must be. And someone pulled out a huge equation that was so ungodly complicated, it always took me several tries with my HP calculator, even though I was really bright. And I said, I'll be the guinea pig. I'll try the calculation on the Texas Instruments calculator. And I sat down and I started looking at the big formula and figuring out what you have to do first and typing 6, 7, do I type 8 parentheses? How many am I going to have to back out? And I realized it was beyond the capability of a human being to calculate correctly. But what I did was sort of like Socrates says, get rid of everything you know and rebuild it from scratch. And I threw out my knowledge of how to solve an equation on a Hewlett-Packard calculator. And I said, what can I do? And I said, why don't I just type in everything on the equation, including the parentheses, from left to right? That's the order we do things back home. And I typed it in as fast as I could, hit the keys so fast, I might even miss a digit, and I got the right answer the first time. And the other Hewlett-Packard engineers were stunned. And they were shocked. They didn't know how I could have done it. I handed them this calculator, and I said, just type it in from left to right. None of them could understand that simple formula. They all wanted to use